Hi everyone, you are welcome to today's presentation. This is Massive Human Rights and Freedom Initiative. We welcome you to this presentation, and the presentation is based on the questions and the emails we receive asking some questions requiring explanation, and these emails and their questions we cannot answer them individually, and as usual we have requested their indulgence to gather once again for us to have little presentation. We thank you for coming. We also continue asking you to show more resilience in your questions, and also you sit well and listen attentively to your questions. And for those who may watch this presentation from Massive Human Rights and Freedom Initiative outside through the social media, we also thank you and ask you to subscribe, to share the presentation, to give us a thumb, and also to leave your comments. Your comments will be answered, and it will help us also to formulate other presentations we are to give. As a human rights organization, our objective is to ensure that the rights of the people or group of persons or group of organizations that may see themselves being abused or their rights being violated, contacting us, we will see to the fact that those areas of problems are resolved. We also work with other human rights organizations around the world to ensure that there are compliance in the areas of United Nations Human Rights Declarations and other human rights declarations from other continents like African Union Human and People's Rights, the European Union Human Rights Group. We also work with every other persons that may have issues on this, and our experts also may come from the human rights organizations that have worked for a long time and must have handled some serious issues. The ones we cannot answer or handle, we have contact with them and we liaise with them for general resolutions. Thank you. Today, the presentation we are going to show is that which was the questions sent to us. We have a lot of emails and under personal contact, a lot of questions concerning Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB, Nigerian Government, United Nations, African Union on self-determination resolutions. On self-determination resolutions. United Nations resolution came through the philosophy of political self-determination that was put forward in August 1941 by Presidents of United States Roosevelt and the British Prime Minister Churchill, who were then in the National Atlantic Charter group, which came after the Second World War. The philosophy then was there would be no territorial changes in terms of self-determination. There would be no territorial changes that did not correspond with the freely expressed wishes of the people seeking for self-determination. Correspondingly, the right of the people to choose the form of government under which they will rule or they will live with was approved, and that is what makes the self-determination a good prospect. United Nations, on the other hand, in its charter, Article 1.2 and Article 55, in more codified form, provides for self-determination as one of the principles by which to develop friendly relations among nations. This is what the United Nations have. The United Nations, as you may know, comprises of all the nations of the world, and every draft and the resolution passed by United Nations are ratified by countries who are members. Sometimes the ratification may not come at once. Some may sign the treaty years after, some may sign within the period that is this treaty and the resolutions are ratified. So we are now trying to give you the background. Please understand the issue. We are giving you the background of the United Nations and what it does in terms of drafting a resolution purely on right of the people. Now we are talking of self-determination resolution. United Nations is the embodiment of all these resolutions. Then what you ask is, countries that make up these resolutions have 5 permanent members, security members. They have countries that takes decision, and in this, United States appears to lead the United Nations in terms of, because they are the world power. They are part and parcel, and it is their former president that put forward the issue of self-determination with the British Prime Minister then, after the Second World War. They know there was a Second World War during which many countries liberated that we are under some certain powerful countries. That is what they do. So you look at the universal system of the resolution and the people involved. So this presentation, as I'm giving you this slide, is to show you the caliber and the capacity of the people involved in making decisions of the world. United Nations represents the world. Not only this, the right to self-determination comes from this particular organization. It comes from this particular organization called the United Nations. Self-determination on its own has a definition. But before we define this, we will read what is on the slide. In the slide, you find out that United Nations has what they have approved called the Indigenous People's Right. The Indigenous People's Right. And the declaration of this Indigenous People's Right has also given rise to more articles. And these articles, showing in this very slide on Indigenous People's Rights, for instance, Article 3 stated that indigenous people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and they freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. That is the definition they gave to this. The definition that was allotted to this self-determination, handed over to the world by United Nations. Again, the right to self-determination is also part and parcel, was incorporated into international customary law as defined in the United Nations Charter. United Nations is the body that puts law and defines the law, and the law that comes from United Nations becomes international law. We are not going to define to you now what the customary law is all about, international customary law. We are not going to put that definition before you. But, however, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights affirms the right of all people to self-determination. Mark the word, all peoples to self-determination, by virtue of which they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development, which is exactly what we have read earlier, put forward by United Nations. All these resolutions were ratified by countries that were members or that are members of the United Nations. These countries included, one of them is Nigeria. Nigeria is part and parcel of the United Nations, is one of the countries that make up United Nations. There is no other way out of the rules provided by United Nations than to obey if what United Nations puts before everyone is to go by. These laws are to be adhered to. That is what the United Nations makes the world to believe. And every human rights organizations and watch uses this as yardstick. Even international courts use the resolutions and approval and the treaty signed by all countries of the world that are members or that agreed to ratify such resolutions as a yardstick for judgment. Then, decoding this, we go to African Union. African Union is an organization of African countries. Majority of the members are members of United Nations, of which Nigerian state is also a member of United nations and also a member of African Union. In fact, he's a leader in this very organization, although its leadership rotates from country to country to ensure that all parties take power to control and put down resolutions other countries or table issues other countries perhaps did not table when they have the opportunity to be the president and the leader of the organization. But trust them, regardless of this, we have the chairman, we have leaders of the African Union. The African Union coordinates and controls the activities of states that are signatory to the treaty and ensure that those resolutions are practiced and not violated, more or less, the human rights issues. In this very presentation, these are examples, just like we stated, these are the leaders of African Union from various countries. They are the ones that put all the draftings and the approval of all the resolutions, and they put their signatures to approve any resolution they agreed upon and put it to African people, just like the United Nations put before the world. Then in one of the resolutions, they put forward what they call African Human and People's Right. Each country, each African country has a representative. They have head of states that look into those resolutions and make approval. That is what the organization does. And in this situation, they are the people who approved the resolution of self-determination. They are the people, or the heads of government are the representatives that approved the self-determination right and gave it to the people. On the other hand, there is no distinction, because we have gone through the drafts, the resolutions, the covenant instruments. We have gone through them, but we have not been able to see where there is discriminatory input to who will vie for self-determination and who will not. This also we did in the United Nations instrument. We have not been able to see the distinction, which country that will do it and it will be all right, and which continent that will do it, I'll go for self-determination, that will be rejected or approved. So all these are the things that we gather then to answer your questions. We have gathered them, we have looked at these questions, and we have gone to do the research to find out. We have also been able to have the level of contacting other legal and human rights group to find out if there is a distinction. We could not find. None of them was there. Then we see the issue of what the African Union has to say. They have the capacity, just like the United Nations, to monitor the resolutions, to monitor each state on the issue of human rights abuses, violations, and also how those rights they have approved are monitored and examined. If the government of each nation is practicing what they signed, or they are abusing what they signed. In this situation, in 1981, the African Union, in its 18th section, adopted what they called Regional Human Rights Instrument. After 3 years of drafting and deliberations, this draft and deliberation included the right to self-determination, and this is exactly what they copied, or the resolutions they followed from United Nations instrument. Because most of African countries were colonized and they had their independence, and this independence came through after the Second World War. They were given the opportunity. The colonial masters were asked to withdraw from those territories and give the people the opportunity to govern themselves. But unfortunately, most of these countries were lumped together. The colonial masters prepared the boundaries, put the people together, regardless of their culture, regardless of their language, regardless of the economic, social, and political system being operated before they were colonized. So this has much impact when the countries were lumped together and given a name. After years of struggling within the colonial territories, there is a squabble, be it political, be it social, be it on language background, cultural background. There is, in some areas, a form of integration, but where the integration does not bind and there is still problems, the next, in most cases, is to seek a way out. And this is what the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB sought. We are not here to defend. We are not here to give judgment, but we are here to provide you some certain things, some certain reasons. When you are asking, why is it that United Nations, the African Union, is there and there are a lot of problems going around the countries or continent on the things they can help. But like I've stated, number one, they are the people who drafted the resolutions. They deliberated on them. They passed the resolutions. All the countries put their signatories and approved the treaty. They become part and parcel of those rules and regulations. Secondly, the resolutions are passed from international to national level. From national level, then there will be problems within the national level, and these problems are what this man called Mazi Nnamdi Kanu then got home or gathered the materials, read them, go through them, and see what he can do if he is qualified to pursue such resolution. Indeed, he saw himself qualified for the resolution according to what is playing out. Those resolutions, the criteria for self-determination, of which Nigeria signed, that if you are qualified, you can do it by yourself. As long as you are qualified, you can do it. Every other African country signed. Any person within my territorial zone is qualified to seek for that if you are qualified. There are criteria the United Nations gave. There are the same criteria the African Union gave. So both organizations provided the guidelines for that. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, with his group, perhaps with his lawyers, sat down and considered those things and also evaluate the way they are treated in the country and decided that they are qualified for this type of determination. That is the case. Now, I have been able to bring this awareness a little bit to you. You may not know. According to one person, say he's hearing of self-determination. Nnamdi did this. Government did this. They don't know what is going on. They can't even define what is there. There is no case. That is why you ask the questions. You know what you don't know. You be presented with what you don't know. You understand it and be able to see what is going on by yourself. No person tells you this is happening, but you see what is happening. If you understand any system, you won't be able to have problems with anybody, except when there is a desire to bring problem into a system. Then we look at the problems now. Nigeria is a member of United Nations. Is also a signatory to Human Rights Universal Declaration. Nigeria is a member. Nigeria is a member and has also been elected as member of Human Rights Council, United Nations Human Rights Council. This is where you look and see. So Nigeria has a potential of being a member of United Nations Council. Yes, Nigeria is a big nation. It's a rich nation. It has the population. It has everything. It's a leader in Africa. So it has the opportunity, it has right to be elected as member. Yeah, the other person is asking, if he is a member, then why is he not putting into practice what was in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? And African Union Human and People's Rights. Why are they not practicing it? Well, government is government. You know, government try to, in one way or the other, to justify themselves in whatever they do. But when you take it above them, then it is then they will now realize, you know, most things happen if you don't know you are right, you don't know what to do. Government is there to tell you what you can do. That is why in most cases, in most countries, you see people going to European Court of Justice, some people going to European Human Rights, some people going to African Human Rights Court, some people going to Inter-American Human Rights Court. All this is Asian, Inter-Asia Human Rights Court. So that is for those who know their right. You can go beyond, because a government that puts its signatory into a resolution and comes back to fault it, then he is jeopardizing his signature or their signature in that very organization. Now, to tell you that Nigeria, the present president understands the act of human rights, and let us look at his presentation at at United Nations Human Rights when he did his presentation. You look at it, then you'll be able to
recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainability.
We will look at it and see what
the future Secretary General to assist him in discharging his responsibilities.
Just a minute.
Mr. President, excuse me, the theme of this year's General Assembly, building silence, resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainability, respond to needs of the planet, respect.
No, please wait.
Secretary General, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, let me, on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, support and cooperation of the Nigerian delegation, Mr. Volkan Bashir, for the many remarkable achievements recorded during his tenure despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic.
So,
permitting me to
we will continue and until we get the appropriate
His Excellency
clip on this.
Federal Republic of Nigeria, and invite him to address the Assembly.
So, sorry for the delay. We are trying to get the clip, and
Heads of State and Government,
the clip went off as we were waiting.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, let me, on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, congratulate you on your well-deserved election as President of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. I would like to assure you,
as you are watching this, this is the President of Nigeria, His Excellency
I would like to commend
Muhammad Buhari, presenting his papers at the United Nations Assembly General Assembly.
During his tenure, despite the challenges posed,
so he is presenting his paper,
pandemic.
And
permitting me to congratulate the Secretary General,
so
Antonio Guterres, on his re-election and commend his strong commitment to making the United Nations more alive to its responsibilities. I also want to express my gratitude to him for reappointing Ms. Amina Mohammed as the Deputy Secretary General to assist him in discharging his responsibilities.
Listen, continue listening.
Mr. President, excuse me, the theme of this year's General Assembly,
This is where we are interested.
building silence, resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainability, respond to needs of the planet, respect the rights of the people, and revitalize the United Nations sums up our common desire to rescue our planet, recover our economies, and restore hope to all the peoples of the world. In this regard, my delegation will continue to support the United Nations.
So, if you can be able to recollect, it says they have to respect the human right. He recognized the right of the people, and he knew all about the right of the people. So in this situation, he is bound to abide by the covenant and the instruments of the covenant he signed. That is what we need to commend the president. He recognized this. Then after the recognition, he recognized the right of the people. He is the chief custodian of human rights in Nigeria as long as he is the president. In this presentation, I tried to bring, people may say he has no knowledge of the human right, what it means, what violation is, and what abuses may be. But in all, this particular clip has shown that he is aware of the human right and it has to be respected, and he has promised that they are respecting the human right. Now let us continue with our presentation. The presentation gives a clue from your question. Nigeria president war against Nnamdi Kanu is a war against the United Nations and the African Union, as well as international human rights laws. This is what it means. He is aware of the self-determination draft and approved article for the indigenous people on both sides, be it United Nations, be it African Union. Nigeria is a signatory on both. He knew everything about the law, including the international law guiding the article and its resolution. Now, Nnamdi, being propelled by these resolutions, dished out, passed by United Nations and the African Union, made open for contestants, just like declaring those who are now trying to contest for presidential candidate or candidacy of a particular political party, it is thrown open. It is a law from each political party and a law passed in Nigerian constitution. People has to vie for it. That is equivalent. It has been thrown open. These laws are thrown open for the public, for the nations, for the continent. Whosoever that finds himself suitable, qualified, has to go in for it. The question of Macberg, that why is it that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, was arrested and detained and charged for felony? Then where is the United Nations? Where is the African Union? Did they make the law for a particular group, or did they make the law universally for everyone to partake? If they are looking at the laws they made that is in their various documents, and the person or persons who decide to put them into practice and put them forward based on what they think, is arrested, detained, and charged for doing that which they themselves ratified, what are they doing? Well, that is a good question, which I don't know how the two parties will defend themselves, the United Nations and African Union. And I do not know how the government of Nigeria themselves or their group will defend themselves. All the parties involved, the United Nations, the African Union, Nigerian government, I do not know how they will defend themselves. Whether what they put forward was to entrap a particular person or group of persons, or they made it to liberate the people who believed they are entrapped in a system that do not give them the opportunity to grow. That is what I cannot define. It is the leader of or leaders of these organizations that need to give more clarification and indicate if holding the person who is adopting their resolution to put forward his request is to be charged. It is those organizations that is to be held responsible according to my young friend there is saying they are to be held responsible. So it is them that will give us the clue. We do not know how they want to resolve it, because I don't understand it. Just like I continue to give example, it's just like all the presidential candidates are asked to go and put their house in order, vie for, ask people to, to elect them, and they are going from state to state. And eventually, one of them tried to succeed to get the ticket after consultation. Perhaps he's arrested and asked, why are you going from place to place to ask for people to elect you as a party representative, or you go about one of the major parties bring out their candidates and they go and arrest one of them and say, why are you going about trying to be president of Nigeria? This is equivalent. All you need to do, according to, there are guidelines. Let me tell you, there are guidelines provided by the government, by the United Nations, by African Union. There are issue of resolution. There are issue of what? Resolution that comes to play a part in these areas. It should be understood that indigenous politicians, when you come back to Nigeria, when you come back again to illustrate some certain things we have, the indigenous politicians of Nigeria in the old days, they call the fathers of independence, the Nnamdi Dr. Azikiwe, Inyang Epo, Jaja Wachuku, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello, Abubakar, Chief Abubakar or Alhaji Abubakar, the first prime minister, and a host of others. They used the advantage of Second World War to free Nigeria from Britain. That is the advantage. And nevertheless, debates on self-determination in most countries are carried out in three phases, in three ways, or in two ways. It is an internal self-determination. It may be internal self-determination. It may be external. But however, the right of the people, irrespective of any argument, has to be respected. The right of individuals, the right of the group, the right of the ethnic entity, the economic, the cultural and or social, political, and whatever they have presented has to be respected. What is the next? The next is that the African or the leaders, according to what is in the draft, need to call those involved. Those involved need to be contacted. They sit down with the parent country. They discuss on the issues raised. The deliberations will be made public as well, whatever they decide. They'll be carrying out consultative meetings to resolve issues. Those issues that are concerned to those seeking for self-determination has to be looked into. That is the issue. You have to look at it. You don't shy away with it. But unfortunately, I know you may see it's an African problem that is how Africans, try to do. They don't do things in accordance with the rule of law. No, that is not the issue. The issue, it depends on the leader. The leader or the leadership decides and wants to either use the way he likes to resolve the issue, or sometimes his decision may contradict the rules and the regulations, the guidelines and of the resolution. That is individual. But however, the leader takes it all. Even if a crime is committed, it's the leader that will answer the question. That is the human rights law. In Nigeria, it never came as expected. The present day Nigerian president was a military man. A military man is a military man. It takes the grace of Almighty God to change a military man, because his training is to obey the last order, especially when it goes to he was a retired general Therefore, he is a commander. He believes he is the commanding officer, and luckily for him now, he's still the commanding officer of Nigerian Army, all security forces. So he believed in order, do it as I want. That is not democracy. That is the difference between the system. Democracy is different from military setup. Nigeria has been ruled by a military regime for a long time. Unfortunately, it has stayed long, and the people are used to. Even many politicians are afraid to speak. In most cases, it's only those who are wise that can have the stand to speak out. So that made reconciling with the problems of self-determination impossible. But how did Nigeria try to tackle it? That is another area where violation of human rights and abuses comes in. Because everyone that abuses the law, whether you are a president or not, you are contempt. You have put yourself into international law. That is what people don't know. In Africa, in most cases, people don't go to court. They just leave everything to God. That is why sometimes things continue to grow. There is exponential growth of violations, because no person wants to say, I want to put my hands into challenging the violations. What do? You can't do anything. You can't do anything. So this led to the arrest and persecution of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, saying that he committed treasonable felony. I have a lot of emails and questions on the issue of this treasonable felony and other arrest. We are going to treat them with time. Let us see when we make our time to treat them. But however, the issue of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in court today is because the United Nations and African Union allowed their resolutions to be trampled upon by the government of Nigeria, which is also a signatory to those resolutions, to those instruments. That is the case. I cannot answer this question. Please, whether there is something that can be done to United Nations and African Union on this. Yes, I think if they have been notified and they keep silent, means that perhaps it has not, taken strong stand to defend the resolutions and the draft, the resolutions and the instrument they have created. That is putting somebody who want to use it or practice what they have done or present what they have done into problem. That is all I can say. I can't say more than that. Until we try to make contact with other human rights organizations and watch to find out if these complaints or if they know about these issues. For the moment, we don't have so much to say. But all you have to note is that the government of African Union, the government of United Nations, the Human Rights Council of United Nations need to take appropriate action to define what they mean by self-determination, and the people who supposed to practice them, and they will not be arrested. The people that we present them, or a group of people that will act on these resolutions and regulations, then they will tell those people, look, you are not qualified, the other man is qualified. But if everybody is universally qualified, then they have to do something as quickly as possible. That is what I have to tell you today. I've given you the background of the whole situation, what self-determination is all about. I don't know who is left behind on this issue of self-determination. Like I've stated earlier, it is defined as a legal right of the people to decide their own destiny in international order. That is what it's all about. Then for Nigerian government, which began to treat this issue in a form of military war, it is wrong. Nigerian government should realize that they are treated to self-determination covenant and instrument. They have to realize this. That is why I pledged. They have pledged before the United Nations, before the world, that they are obeying the human rights rules, or the covenant, or the Universal Human Rights Declaration, and African Union Human and People's Rights. They are practicing them. But all these areas appear not to be abide with. These areas that is lingering, they have used, for instance, before we conclude, the self-determination is granted by law at both international and human rights law. Then, unfortunately, those who are practicing it in Nigeria have been tagged terrorists. They have used military, DSS, and police agents against them, committing crime, murder. They have used other vigilantes. The governors of some areas in the southeastern state have used the military to kill the people, which is against the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the indigenous people's right and the grantee of self-determination. If they are practicing their system, they are going about chanting for their declaration or having another. It is the right of both the state government and the national government to call them to request what that problem is and how they are to resolve it, and not to kill them. Killing them is committing crime against the law, and you are committing crime against international community, because these people are putting into practice what the international organizations, the AU and the UN, put forward for the people under the Indigenous People's Right and under the Universal Human Rights Act. This is the issue, and that is where I will leave you today. Thank you very much for coming. We suggest you share this video, and also you subscribe, send it to your friends, and for those who will be watching through the social media when it is uploaded, then you have to subscribe, you share, you listen to it, you put your thumb, right hand thumb, you like it, you put it, you also carry out, you also put your comment, you subscribe. We will come back to you. The organization is here to protect everyone. If your right is tampered with by the government, by individuals, by organizations, if you contact us, we will also contact those organizations and ask why. We try to protect. That is why we are here. We thank you very much, and goodbye. God bless you all. Thank you.